Yeah. What enthusiasm. What enthusiasm.
Everybody else says nothing now.
All right. We're going to have a long choir practice tonight. All right, so doing walk through the Bible, and like to do some review so that you can remember. Now I'm going to because we've done the first part so much. Again, I like to kind of like go halfway through and start there, and then go through it again, just to start us off, to get us limbered up and moving around. Candy has not been here for this. She's been up in the nursery. We did this together for our children years ago. And I was actually, she came to walk me home after work, because I need the help. No, just kidding. I want the company. I want the company. And I was quizzing her from what she learned over a decade ago. And there was some little parts she needed help, but she was right there. So there's hope. There's hope. Again, as we go over it, if we go over it, okay. All right. We're going to start right after they've gone through the Red Sea and they're out Mount Sinai, and we're going to go from there, and then we're going. I'm sorry, it's funny, and you're not the only one, Tina. But when I'm starting to do this, and I just make I might scratch, and everybody starts scratching their nose. No, that's a false move. That's a false move. But anyway, that's cute. That's cute.
You're all game.
Simon didn't say. Okay. All right. So here we go. From Mount Sinai, we've got the law and the tabernacle, and you have Levites and priests who were taught about offerings and feasts, and there they counted the faces and then moved to Kadesh Oasis. From there they sent the 12 spies, and then they didn't go in, so the whole Israel wanders and dies. At Moab, which is where Riley's seated, because again there's a map here on the ground. So Moab, Moses' second law dies. Joshua, Jordan River. And it's just like the Red Sea, but it's exactly like the Red Sea. Same thing happened. Jericho divides. And what I'm doing, for those who haven't been here, this is the Jordan River. They went through to the land of Israel. So, divides, conquers, south, north. Divides, settles, 12 tribes. Judges, 400 years. Deborah, Gideon, Samson. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes, except, and that's where we're going to move on, but let's start from the beginning, okay? So just wanted to give you that. So here we go, ready? We at the very beginning we have creation, fall, flood, nations, 4,000 years ago, Persian Gulf, salt, Sarah, Abraham, Lot, Terah, Tigris, Euphrates. I always have to turn because Haran, Terah died. Sea of Galilee, Jordan River, Dead Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Israel, Ishmael, Isaac, Esau, Jacob, Joseph, Egypt, Jews, Egypt, 400 years, bondage. Moses. let my people go. No. 10 plagues, Passover, Red Sea, Mount Sinai. Law, tabernacle, Levites and priests, offerings and feasts, counting the faces, Kadesh, oasis, 12 spies, wanders, dies. Moab, Moses, second law, dies. Joshua, Jordan River. I was already going to Jericho. Divides, conquers, south, north. Divides, thank you, divides, settles, 12 tribes. Judges, 400 years. Deborah, Gideon, Samson. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes, except, pointing over, here's one of the individuals. Where am I pointing to? Moab. That's where she's from. Ruth. Put your blank in. There's a blank there. There's a blank. Ruth. Okay, think about it. During the Judges, 400 years, and technically, okay, just let me know. When I say 400 years, it might be 430 years, or it might be 387 years, or, so, and because but you're not going to remember 387 years, but, so, during this time, as I shared last week, the Judges and the nation got progressively worse. And where you had to start off with some really good judges and all that. And each time, even the judges themselves, ending with Samson, who, he had a Nazirite vow. And he broke all 3 things of the vow. He could care less. He slept with prostitutes. All this other stuff. He really isn't a hero. But God, it's a great thing of God's grace. But during that time, here's a woman who's not even an Israelite, who comes in contact with the Israelite family, marries into the family, loses her husband, but sees something in her mother-in-law that endeared her, not just to her mother-in-law, but to what was behind her mother-in-law, and that was her relationship with God. And so, that's that famous thing you hear at a lot of weddings, your people will be my people and all that. No, that's not a husband to a wife. That's a daughter-in-law to a mother-in-law, And so she is just the typical, or atypical in that time, showing what faithfulness is. In the midst of unfaithfulness, in the midst of everyone did what was right in their own eyes, except Ruth. And I'm just plopping him right here in the middle of Israel. Samuel. Real quick on his story. Before birth, his mom promised, okay, God, if you give me a child, I'll give him back to you. And so after he was old enough to leave the home, he went to stay with the priest. And the priest wasn't all that good of a guy, and his sons were even worse, and stuff like that. So again, in the midst of everyone doing what's right in their own eyes, here's someone who stands out of following the Lord, and he heard God's voice at night, and he thought it was Eli calling him, the priest, and he kept going back, and finally, that might be the Lord, and so God spoke, and I love how the word says that nothing dropped out of his mouth. Nothing that the Lord spoke, wasn't said, is basically what it's saying. So he was faithful in an unfaithful time in representing the Lord, in declaring what the Lord said. So you have, everyone did what was right in their own eyes, except Ruth and Samuel. Now, the way that God used Samuel, He was the last judge. He was kind of like the first prophet even. But God used him to bring the kingdom of Israel. And it was, the people are like, we want to be like everybody else. Everybody else is king and all that. But, they got through that. And I won't go into all the details. But what Samuel brought was a united kingdom. This is a motion. United kingdom. And that lasted 120 years. Now, most everything has been 400. So it's 3 sets of 40. Okay? 3 kings that lasted 40 years each. So we're going to crown each king and talk about the condition of their heart. Okay? So, except Ruth and Samuel, we have united kingdom 120 years. Okay?
Back up.
Yep.
It's 56 Ruth and Samuel.
I don't have anything in front of me. Yes, 56 Ruth and Samuel.
56 is Ruth, 57 Samuel.
Except Ruth and Samuel. All righty. All righty. So, and then you have United Kingdom. That's also a blank. 400 years. Okay. And then 120 years. Yes, I told you. We say 400 all the time, except for this time and one other time. So, now, what we're going to do is, we have the United Kingdom, so we're going to crown each king. So we have the first king, Saul. Okay? And we go to the heart. No heart. He had no heart for God. That's God said, no, I want a man after my own heart. You're not it. So no heart. So who do we crown next? David. Whole heart. David. Whole heart. Yeah, don't mirror me, because you do that and you're not on your heart. Okay, your heart's over here. Okay, anyway. So I was watching and going, which side? It's your heart. Okay. So crown. Okay, so all right. So we have Saul, no heart. David, whole heart. And then David's son, Solomon, half heart. Okay? Solomon started out great. He got the temple built, led the people in worship and all that. But there's a couple things that God said don't do. And it says, don't be relying on the horses from Egypt. Don't be relying on this. Don't be relying on wealth and all that. Now Solomon started good. He was humble and says, God, I just want wisdom to rule these people. And God granted him that. But then, what was his downfall? Were the many wives. And I didn't look it up, but it's like 400 wives and 700 concubines. I like to call them porcupines. But, I'm just like, and now the thing is, a lot of these marriages were like, okay, let's have a peace treaty. Now, isn't this degrading women? Yeah, there's no paper to sign, but here's my daughter, and that was kind of what was going on, some of that. So everybody wanted Solomon to be their son-in-law, and so all this stuff is going on. So, but the Bible says because these women brought their religions with them, and Solomon allowed it, and then he went away from the Lord. So half his life he's living for the Lord, but then the other half divided kingship, divided, and that division of his heart led to a divided kingdom. Okay? So we have a united kingdom, and that lasted 120 years. And now, and that's where we have Saul, who had no heart for God, David, who had a whole heart for God, Solomon, who had a half heart for God, and go straight up and join him. And you have divided kingdom, 400 years. Okay? Technically it's 387 years, but 400 is a lot easier to remember. So 400 years. Now, let's describe what this divided kingdom. Solomon's son, God said, for David's sake, I'm not going to let you lose the kingdom, but it will happen after you're gone. And so his son Rehoboam, you don't have to remember these names, but his son Rehoboam, became king, and the people said, if you'd just be a little less hard than your father, and he had some good advice from the older advisors, and he listened to the guys he wanted to hear, the younger advisors, and who said, oh yeah, you think my dad was tough? I'm tougher, basically that's what was said. And so the people said, fine. And really, he lost. To me, it's a debate. Some say he lost 11 tribes and only saved one, but Benjamin kind of stuck with them too. So I'd say it's 10 and 12, but 10 and 2. So he lost all. And so what we're going to do right here. Now listen, this is where I was testing Candy, and she almost got it after not hearing it for 12 years. Because you just kept repeating it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to point to, you have a northern kingdom and you have a southern kingdom, and how many kings were in this one and how many kings were in that one. How many good kings were in this one and how many bad kings were in that one. So you just do it this way. I'm going to say it all at once and then we're going to go through it. North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8. And listen, we're going to say it enough that you're going to know that for 12 years later, because she did. It was amazing, So here we go. North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8. North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8. North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8. All righty. Now fill in your blanks. Fill in your blanks. I don't have the sheet in front of me. I forgot what I left as a blank and what. So you have north, the northern kingdom, which is also called Israel. Okay, north. Then you have the south. Okay, and that's Israel is the north one. Judah is the southern one. You had 19 total kings in the 200-something years that they were a kingship. And then you had 20 kings of Judah. And here's the sad thing. In Israel, 0 good kings. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then you had only 8 out of 20 good kings from that point of when they were a divided kingdom. So let's talk about that. But before we do it again, I want to do it again. Ready? North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8. North, south. Okay, without reading it. All right, good. Listen. You're going to get that, and you're going to go, okay, well, how many kings? Now let's talk about that. Again, it was Jeroboam, which is easy to remember if you want to remember. You have Solomon's son Rehoboam and Jeroboam, at least they rhyme, and stuff like that. So Jeroboam takes the kingship, and one of the first acts, it wasn't right at the very, very beginning, but one of the first things he does is he sees holy days coming up. And where do you go on holy days? Jerusalem. You had a new temple that was just built, a decade ago, okay? And that's where you worship the one true living God. And he's like, if we don't do something, everybody's going to end up going back there and they'll rebel against me. So I tell you what, we'll set up our own religion. Now listen, sometimes the translations don't fully, it's kind of the same thing as when you had the golden calf. It says, in many of our English translations, it says, behold the gods who got you out of Egypt. But the word gods is Elohim. So Aaron was probably saying, behold Elohim who took you out. And it's like, you don't look like a calf. But anyway, same thing was said about, they made a place to worship, both in the tribe of Dan and also Another city. So that just escaped my mind. So yeah, they had two. Hey, we got two places you can come and worship. So you don't have to go to Jerusalem. And we're going to have some calves. And again, I don't know why they keep bringing up calves, but they say, and he says, this is your gods, O Israel. But probably what he was saying was, this is Elohim. But what did God say? Do not make an idol. I don't look like any of that. There's nothing you can make that looks like me, And so they were going against that. Now, during the whole reign of 19 kings, there was one king that I don't know if you ever read the Bible, you go, no, I wouldn't say that. There was one king I think was good, but he wasn't. His name was Jehu. Jehu obeyed the Lord, got rid of Ahab, it's one of those bad kings, got rid of his family, did everything the Lord said, when you read his story, but yet he's considered still a bad king. Why? From the very first time, once they set up those two, they never went away from it. They never worshiped God as God deserved to be worshipped. And so even though Jehu had even a zeal, he didn't have the zeal enough to say, this is wrong. And, so again, all 19 kings. Now, let me just share some of the kings, you've heard of, and I mentioned Ahab. Ahab was one of the really, really bad kings. His wife, Jezebel, just greatly influenced, and they were worshiping Baal. They were worshiping Asheroth, and during that time, the prophet Elijah shows up. And again, we'll talk about prophets in a couple weeks and where do they fit in the story. But let's think about Judah. Judah, you had 8 good kings. I wanted to at least list them. Now, this is going away from your notes, so I can't remember all this. But of the good kings, the first good king was I cannot read, Asa. Really you had Rehoboam and then his son, and they were bad, and he was the first good king since the kingdoms divided. And then there was like a series of good kings. You had good King Jehoshaphat. And he was a godly king. His problem, and again, you could find errors in each of these. His problem was he made an alliance with another king, Ahab. And you know how they make alliances? Hey, my daughter, your son, hey, yeah. And so the son of Jeroboam married into the family of Ahab. And was just as influential as Jezebel was. And that caused a couple generations of bad kings. You have a king called Joash, and he's a good king, and he's the one that, again, refurbishing the temple and getting things back. He started out really good, and he did kind of end bad, but again, it still says he was good. Amaziah, which you're going to go, I don't know who he is. Uzziah was the longest reigning of the good kings, 52 years. Can you imagine having a leader for 52 years? England can, but he was king. And only thing he got proud. He got proud and went where he wasn't supposed to go, the temple. I'm going to bring my incense and all that. And he had leprosy his last years, where totally excluded him from coming to the Lord. You have his son Jotham. Then they had a bad batch, and then followed by one of the best kings ever, Hezekiah. And he was king when the northern kingdom was being destroyed. And then the last good king, he was after Hezekiah had a son, Manasseh, 55 years of the worst rule ever. In fact, when you read the accounts in 1 Kings and 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, it says, because of the sins of Manasseh, Judah's going to be no more. I'm going to be punishing Judah. Even though at the end of his life, he turned back to the Lord. And so his son, Josiah, he's the one who, they were refurbishing the temple again, and they found the law, which meant they weren't reading the law. Nobody saw the law, and the law was read to him, and he just says, what is going to happen? You know, we deserve judgment, and God spared the nation until his sons after him. So you have north, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8. Okay? Now, let me just share a couple things. You had, I don't know how many dynasties. What a dynasty is, back then was you have a family ruling, and then somebody else takes over. Okay, that dynasty's over. You have a new dynasty. You had 5 or 6 dynasties in this period of time. Some of them didn't even last one generation. Some of them didn't even last a month. I mean, it's like, all right, I'm king, and somebody takes him out, and oh no, I'm king, So you had all these kings in a period of 209 years. 209 years. Israel lasted 387 years. Of that 387, 263 years were led by good kings. So you had 8 out of 20, but yet, 2/3 of the period of time, it was with good kings, and stuff like that. So, and that's hard to do is when you have one like Manasseh who rules forever. So, will he ever die? Anyway, so we have
North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0.
do it again.
North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8.
All right. Prophets speak. Shape up or ship out. And next week we'll find out where they got shipped to. Okay? So, let's go from the beginning of this one. Okay? Which is hard for me because I'm like, okay, where did we start? Okay, everyone did what was right in their own eyes except Ruth and Samuel. United Kingdom, 120 years. Saul, no heart. David, whole heart. Solomon, half heart. Divided kingdom, 400 years. North, south, Israel, Judah, 19, 20, 0, 8. Prophets speak, shape up or ship out. And I'm going this way because that's where they're going. They're going back to this map over here. So everything. Now let's go from the very beginning. No. The map's here because where Riley's sitting, that's always Moab, okay? And when I'm doing north-south, this is where the northern kingdom was, and that's where the south kingdom was. So anyway, and I feel for everybody who's watching this. I keep walking off, the stage. So I'm going to stay back here and do it again. So from the very beginning, it's a very good place to start. When you read, you begin with ABC. When you sing, you begin with Do, Re, Mi. Re, mi, the first 3. I'm sorry. I got a little Sound of Music in me, so here we go. All right. Creation, fall, flood, nations, 400 years ago.
4,000 years.
4,000 years. Yeah, 100. 4,000 years. Thanks for stopping me. Persian Gulf. Saul, Sarah, Abraham, Lot, Terah, Tigris, Euphrates, Haran, Terah dies. Sea of Galilee, Jordan River, Dead Sea, Mediterranean Sea, Ishmael, Isaac, Esau, Jacob, Joseph, Egypt, Jews, Egypt. 400 years bondage. Let me hear you. Moses, let my people go. No. 10 plagues, Passover, Red Sea, Mount Sinai, law, tabernacle, Levites and priests, offerings and feasts, counting the faces, Kadesh, oasis, 12 spies, wanders, dies. Moab, Moses, second law, dies. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going. Let my people go. It's a song that never ends. Okay. Dies. Joshua, Jordan River, Jericho. Divides, conquers, south, north. Divides, settles. 12 tribes. Judges, 400 years. Deborah, Gideon, Samson. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes except Ruth and Samuel. United Kingdom, 120 years. Saul, no heart. David, whole heart. Solomon, half heart. Divided kingdom, 400 years. North, south. Israel, Judah. 1920-08. Prophets speak. Shape up or ship out.
Ship up or shape out?
Ship out. One way or the other. Let's pray, but there's something, we got a little bit of time that if you could do for me. Okay? Take a little bit of time if everybody works on it. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you. Thank you for, again, the story of your word, the story of your redemption from our fall, and what you've done in preparing the way for Jesus when you come, when you came, and when you will come again. I pray in your name, amen.